Welcome into another edition of Extra Innings. He's Collyn Taylor. I'm Mike Yuva. And for another weekend, South Carolina is able to take out the Brooms as they improve now to 6-0 in conference play. And Collyn, from the start of this weekend, from game 1 to game 3, it was absolutely electric the way that South Carolina played, especially in games 1 and 3. Just your overall takeaways from this weekend.
They keep winning, man, and they're finding ways to scrap and claw. And you had 2 different games with multi-run comebacks in the 8th inning or later. You scored 2 in the 8th to tie it in game 3 on Saturday, and then you have that frenzied. I still can't process what we saw on Friday night with the 4 runs in the I guess what was that, the 9th inning for South Carolina. It's been impressive, and this is a quality Missouri team. This was a Missouri team that came in red hot, and they just coming off a sweep of a top 10 Tennessee team, and they could really pitch, and they have some studs in that lineup, and South Carolina kept them at bay and did it without having a truly great offensive weekend, if that makes sense, and hit a lot of home runs, but top to bottom found ways to scrap and claw, and when it mattered most, they manufactured, which is something they haven't been able to do in the past offensively. And really impressive when you talk about South Carolina and what they were able to do. And now you're off to your best, or your first, I guess, 6-0 streak in SEC play since 2016. They have not started 6-0 in SEC play since 2016, a year they won the SEC East and were in contention to be a national seed in the NCAA tournament. So the makings of what has a chance to be a pretty good regular season. And now if you're South Carolina, you got 8 weeks left, but you start doing the math on, we got 6 SEC wins already. All we need's 9 more to really feel good about getting into the tournament. And now we only need about 10 to 11 more to be a regional host if you're South Carolina. So really impressive, and I'll be interested to see how it goes, but just finding ways to win, man, and that's all you can do in this league.
You mentioned 2016. It's also the best start since that 2016 season when South Carolina was 23-2 after 25 games. That game 3, I want to go back, though, Collyn. We'll kind of work our way back from game 3 to game 1. You can't say enough good things about Matthew Becker, especially in that final inning, that 12th. But what he was able to do, obviously leading up to that, it was just incredible. It was incredible. He came in, gives you 3 innings, allows 2 hits, no runs, no earned runs, 5 strikeouts. I bring that up, though, because for a moment, it looked like, all right, you had men on the corners, no outs. It looked like, all right, South Carolina might lose this game, but they're still going to win the series, take it, 2 to 3 games. But then 3 straight pitches, 3 straight pop-ups. It was absolutely incredible. And you could just see Messina fired up at catcher. I mean, it was just absolutely incredible. And it just seems like that sequence right there, that sequence has summed up what we've seen so far with this team, which is there's no quit. And again, we'll go back, we'll talk about game 1. But there's no quit in this team. And even when it looks like there's no chance, that they're going to win, they keep finding ways to win.
Yeah, and let's talk about Matthew Becker on Friday night. Comes in a 1-run game from doing my math.
Pitched twice this weekend, back-to-back days.
Yeah, heck, I mean, Cade Austin and Chris Veach pitched twice in the same day
as
yesterday.
Well, yep.
Looked elite both times. And Becker on Friday gives up the mammoth home run to Luke Mann in the 8th inning of that game to make it a 3-run game at that point to set up South Carolina's 4-run 9th. He looked shaky, gave up 2 hits, one of those being a 2-run bomb, walked a guy, didn't strike out anybody, and he threw 14 strikes on 27 pitches, which is just not good. And then you fast forward, he's coming in with runners on the corners, no one out. If you're South Carolina in that instance, you think, hey, if we can hold them to 1 run here and give us a chance in the 10th inning, let's take it. And all of a sudden, pop up, which, first of all, great throw from Petri on that first pop-up there to keep the runner at third base. Pop-up, behind home plate pop-up, and then a fly out to right field. And that just spurred things on. And one thing that I will say, too, I want to say in the 12th inning, Luke Mann was back up to the plate, the guy that hit 3 home runs on Friday for him and had just been a killer all weekend. He comes up with a man on, or I think it was a man on, and Becker gives up a single and pitches around it in the 12th inning there. So you found ways to – he might have struck him out, actually, because Austin Williamson gave up the home or the single to him. So whatever it was, you didn't let him beat you. You went after him and competed against him and got out of it to set up that. But Stones from Becker, Lexington Richland 5 school district, stand up, proud alum. So a guy that hadn't been his sharpest at points this season comes in, and this has been an elite bullpen, and you saw why Saturday night especially, and that was special from Beck and what you saw from him. And if he can give you that more often than not, you got a chance to have a really, really, really big piece in the back end of that thing.
The hero of the weekend, at least from an at-bat standpoint, and he had an incredible weekend. He's been having an incredible season. Arguably the best freshman right now in the country, Ethan Petri. What can you say about that young man?
If you had told me Ethan Petri had 11 hits through the first 20 or 12 hits through the first 25 games of the year, I wouldn't have believed you in mid to late January. And I don't think Ethan would have believed you just because he was struggling so much in the spring. And then he makes one switch and all of a sudden it's, he's hitting 444 through 90 at-bats. He's got 12 home runs. He's driven in 37. And you're like, oh, yeah, well, it's Penn. It's UMass Lowell. It's Clemson and blah, blah, blah. He's hitting 500 through his first 26 SEC at-bats. He's getting on base at a 536 clip. He's got 6 home runs already against SEC pitching. Yes, you still have a ton of really good arms you're going to have to face if you're Ethan Petri, but he's passed the test so far. Everything about him has passed the test so far, and he's gotten better in right field. And there are just some guys that come up in clutch moments when you need guys to come up in clutch moments. And, Ethan's been that guy for him. Has the huge home run in the 8th, comes up with the bases loaded in the bottom of the 12th and rips a single up the middle, doesn't try to do too much, pokes the ball up the middle, and it's over from there. So really impressed with him and just his ability to just adapt and hit. All the kid does is hit. And that's been the biggest surprise through the first quarter of the season for South Carolina. And can't say enough good things about him and his development.
Friday night, Michael Braswell. And I remember putting a tweet about it out there, put it on Gamecock Central as well. You have to feel good for a young man like that. Could have easily sulked, could have easily felt sorry for himself, not being able to play and crack the starting lineup just because of how good this team is. Instead, he puts his head down, doesn't complain, and he had an opportunity to step right in there, becomes the hero of the night. And off of that, Collyn, there might be an opportunity for him now to be in that starting lineup with McGillis out. Yeah,
and it's just one of those things where if you're Michael Braswell, it's, hey, listen, you're going to have a shot. That's what you tell him if you're Mark Kingston. Like, just, you might not be starting right now, but you never know. And yeah, McGillis gets hit with the pitch, breaks a bone in his arm, and which is terrible for Will, obviously, and for South Carolina because he's been productive for them. But now Michael Braswell can get some more run, whether that's at third, if Talmadge Lecroy shifts over to second, whether that's at second and just replace of that. And he's going to have his chances to earn a spot in that everyday lineup if you're South Carolina. And it's a shift in mindset. I think early on, Braswell was obviously frustrated because he started every game at shortstop last year and was an all-freshman player. And now he's got to sit on the bench. There's some frustration there, but there was a shift in mindset. He realized just how good Braylon Wimmer is at short and how good this team is. and he embraced his role. And now, because he's been plugging away, he might have a shot to get more run over the course of the next few weeks as Will McGillis comes back from that broken arm and gets stronger from it.
I know a lot of people want to talk about Will Sanders, and you and I were talking about it before we hopped on here. With how good South Carolina has been as a team, we understand that there's a rhythm to it, right? And you want to be able to try to find that consistency, especially when you're winning. When you've won 23 out of your first 25 games, it's hard to argue that. How does South Carolina go about that and where they are right now? And, what would you tell people who are looking at that Friday starter a little bit stronger? Because, again, we understand how talented Will Sanders is, and we've seen him when he is on.
Patience. That's the big thing. Will is just in a little bit of a, Mark Kingston called it a lull Friday night. And Will was not sharp, and the umpire did not help his cause Friday night. Both of those things can be true. And 6 walks and 3 1/3 and just didn't look, kind of got rattled there. And then that big inning that Missouri had. And it's one thing if you're having to win every single Friday game, 8-9, 9-8, whatever they had to win it. But it's another if you're winning, 5-4 like they did at Georgia. And Will Sanders looked, for outside of that one bad inning late, looked really good against Georgia and that lineup. So he's not been ace level yet. He's not been first round level yet. But at some point, Will's too good of a pitcher not to get there, if that makes sense. And you might shift things around maybe, but if you're South Carolina, 3 of your next 4 series are Thursday, Friday, Saturday series, not Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if you're trying to move, let's say, Noah Hall up to that starter role on Friday, now you're going from pitching on Saturday to pitching on Thursday, and that messes with the guy's momentum, messes with the guy's routine. Same with Jack Mahoney. James Hicks can obviously start for you if you might want to do that. But at this point, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if you're South Carolina, Noah Hall has been so doggone good in game 2s. Not just from a production standpoint. He's been elite from a production standpoint, but he gives you length. He's gone, I want to say, in 3 of his 6 starts, he's gone at least 7 innings. In all but 1, he's gone at least 5. He's just really freaking good and allows your bullpen not to take a day off, but you don't have to burn. Your bullpen is not pitching like it did on Friday, 5 1/3. Your bullpen doesn't have to pitch, 7 2/3 over the course of, a 12-inning game on Sunday. So it gives you a chance to get guys days off on Saturday that were then having to pitch back-to-back outside of these double headers. And I think that would be huge. That's huge for South Carolina. So I caution people wanting Noah Hall to move up to that number 1 spot. If he does, then you lose that almost guaranteed 6 or 7 innings on a Saturday that gives your bullpen kind of a little bit of a breather, because at some point Will's going to get back to first-round form, second-round form. And you just hope that it's with enough time to really catch fire and start your peak as the season ends.
As we wrap things up, South Carolina takes on the Citadel. That's their midweek game before they're back into SEC play, taking on a Mississippi State team that is struggling. It will be in Starkville. But that game against the Citadel, that will be down in Charleston on Tuesday night. And not that I want to overlook the Citadel, but going ahead and looking at SEC play, you have a Mississippi State team who is struggling right now. They are struggling badly. Worst record right now in conference play in the SEC. With that being said, the following week, you have to play North Carolina at your favorite ballpark in Charlotte. And then on top of that, you have the best team in the country.
LSU.
From a ranking standpoint, I know some Gamecock fans feel like they are, and I understand that, but just going based on the rankings against LSU. How do you just stay focused this weekend, though? Knowing, again, Mississippi State, they're a desperate team. Let's just put it bluntly. They are a desperate team. They need to be able to find ways. I mean, as we're taping this, they don't have any wins in conference play. But what do they need to do in order to go down there to Starkville and they don't get into some type of funk before obviously a huge week the following one.
You got to start fast. This is a South Carolina team that has started fast a lot this year. And I think they scored first in every single game this weekend against Missouri and had a battle back, obviously, in 2 of them. But you got to, really start fast and not give Mississippi State any sort of belief that they can, win 2 out of 3. And this is a state team that has some talent, but has really struggled. They're getting run ruled by Kentucky. They're getting run ruled by Vanderbilt. So you got, from an offensive standpoint, you have to start fast. You have to jump out to these big leads, hopefully, if you're South Carolina, and get the offense. The offense was okay this weekend against Missouri. It wasn't great. You struck out 44 times, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, sorry, no, you struck out 34 times. And you hit 241 as a team now granted, you hit 8 home runs again over the course of the weekend, and you walked 18 times, but you got to continue that offensive momentum. You got to attack their pitchers and really kind of make a statement, because you struggled on the road last year. So what does that look like moving forward? And can you continue and do it on back-to-back road series instead of just one against Georgia? But this is a good team, and I'm not trying to look too far ahead either, but South Carolina can win that series at Mississippi State, if they do, Thursday night at Founders Park with LSU rolling into town and more than likely a top 10 South Carolina team. I don't know what that place is going to be like from a just electricity standpoint. I'm really excited to see what it can be if you're South Carolina.
I'm trying to think, not to get really, really ahead of ourselves here, but by then, women's basketball, if they make a deep run, tournament will be done. Could be maybe a parade that day. Could be a fun day. Ray Tanner, if you're listening, could be a great day to put everything together, get that momentum going. I'm just saying, but one step at a time here, as Collyn Taylor just said. South Carolina takes on the Citadel Tuesday night. And as a reminder, we mentioned it, Thursday. It is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series in Starkville this weekend. He's Collyn Taylor. I'm Mike Ewa. For the latest on all your Gamecock news, be sure to keep it locked in to GamecockCentral.com for not just baseball, but everything else in between. As we mentioned, Don Staley and those Gamecocks, they keep on dancing.